Jay Dyer is an author, comedian, and TV presenter known for his deep analysis of Hollywood, geopolitics, and culture, a regular guest of our broadcast. And you can find all of his work on jaysanalysis.com. He's got his own podcast, features as a regular guest host of The Alex Jones Show, The Fourth Hour, and regularly engages in a variety of debates on religion, philosophy, and much, much more. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and we are personal fans of his work here at Zee Media. Thank you so much, Jay, for joining us today.
Thank you, Maria. Always glad to be back on your show. And I've been working on my Maria Zeee impersonation, so I've
Oh,
got it pretty good.
do I get to see it?
Yeah. I don't go near vaccinated people. Is that good
That's
enough? That's my favorite line of yours. I like that line. It's just me. It's just jokes. I'm just having fun, so don't take it personal.
Never,
Yeah.
never. I don't know if I've ever said those words, but the accent it's a pretty good effort, Jay.
It's just being silly, so don't worry about it. I have to work on my Australian accent. So.
You do. Well, we appreciate everything you bring to the table, Jay. Seriously, when I say Zee Media's personal fans of your work, I mean, we watch your stuff regularly. Your analysis of the world and the psychological manipulation that is involved in the coming deception of any step, really, of the New World Order. I think we can all agree that the psyops have increased, the confusing level of psyops has increased, and this really is the battlefield of the future. So, one particular thing, and right before you came on with us, we played this clip from NBC Nightly News about the mothership. So I really want to get into Project Bluebeam with you. And for those that don't know, Serge Monast is the gentleman who sort of is known to have introduced this theory to the world. He was a Canadian investigative journalist, poet, essayist, and what Wikipedia calls a conspiracy theorist. But this theory is reported to be a NASA conspiracy, which was introduced in the mid-90s. The theory claims that members of the Pentagon, NASA, and the United Nations were collaborating on a plan to simulate a fake alien invasion and stage Second Coming using hologram projections. And we'll go through the steps, the 4 steps that Serge outlined. But where do you want to start with this, Jay? Because there are so many elements, including the psychological manipulation of mankind to get us to maybe the point of this hologram Second Coming.
Yeah, I think I would start with the notion of discernment. So I wrote about this back in my first book, Esoteric Hollywood, because I just saw that through all of the propaganda that they've been putting out going back older than 100 years, we've been prepared for the narrative of aliens, and this goes back to the famous propagandist H.G. Wells, who was a British Royal Society member, high-level Freemason, rabid, sort of a communist character who wanted to have a world government. And so he would sort of brainstorm all these different scenarios of how to convince people of things like this and how you could utilize these things for psychological warfare. And not too long after his writings, there was the famous incident where Orson Welles, the movie director, did the radio broadcast playing War of the Worlds over the radio as if it was a real alien invasion. And this was actually a psychological warfare research project. I think it was Stanford research or Princeton research project. And there's actually an academic text that was written on this by a guy named Hadley Cantrell. So if you're looking for the book, it's called Invasion from Mars by Hadley Cantrell, and it's about the study in the psychosis of mass panic. So, and we've maybe heard about this in recent years with the psychosis of mass panic, right?
Yes.
maybe you've heard about that. I don't know. There might have been something the past 3 years that happened that related to mass panic. Anyway, so believe it or not, there's multiple pieces of data over the years that do suggest and show and prove that the alien narrative has been studied in depth and has been utilized at the white paper NGO think tank level. For example, I uncovered a 1960s Brookings Institute document that I covered in my second book that I also mentioned in the live stream the other day. And it was an institute it was commissioned by NASA, by the Brookings Institute, which is one of the big top think tanks like the Rand Corporation or the Rockefeller Foundation, et cetera. And Brookings came to the conclusion that if there was a discovery of alien life, this would completely shake all Western biblical based narratives. So anything based on the Bible narrative would be completely undone, and thus it would be useful for psychological warfare. So we know there's a lot of precedent for this, even in the white papers and even the documents that discuss social engineering and steering mankind's religious narratives and mythology. And when we get up into more recent times, I think that the key pieces of evidence that suggest this, there's a great book by the Collins brothers called Invoking the Beyond, and there's about a 300-page, it's a 1,000-page book. It's about a 300-page section in that book that's just dedicated to the psyops relating to the alien mythos and narrative. And when we look to some of these famous cases like Betty and Barney Hill or George Adamski, we actually find people like Alan Dulles from the CIA in the background shutting down cases, shutting down investigations into their fraudulent stories. And of course, in the case of Betty and Barney Hill, we find out that they go on to create an alien-based cult. We also find a lot of intelligence studies that go into alien cults and understanding how they develop their narrative. We can think of some of the biggest cults in the world, Xenu, right, with Scientology, that has an alien narrative. So in my view, these are useful techniques. We've seen alien suicide cults with Heaven's Gate. We've seen other groups that have similar ideologies that have been very dangerous, Raelians as a cult. And they always have these shady intelligence figures in the background. So when we come up to issues like the MJ-12, which is the Majestic 12 document, supposedly covering up the idea of alien arrival and all this kind of stuff, in my view, my opinion is it's all deception. I think it's black ops. I think it's cover. It's a lot of different things. But there was a monumental documentary that came out some years ago about this called Mirage Men. And if nobody's seen that, I highly recommend it because they actually interview multiple people from counterintelligence, particularly from the Air Force, who were involved in disseminating the alien mythology. And they actually describe the whole how they profile the people that they pick, narcissistic weirdos that they go and tell them, oh, you're special. You know, the aliens have chosen you to disseminate to be the galactic ambassador. And I mean, it's elaborate. They'll even say, let's bring him to the base, have a general there. The general pops in a VHS tape, and it's a VHS tape of something that the Air Force cooked up. It's just fake. They brought in a Hollywood guy to film hovercraft taking off. It's just a drone, right? And they talk about it in depth in that documentary and admit that, yeah, of course, it's disinformation and psychological warfare. So it does many things. So there's a great book by the journalist Annie Jacobson. She did the famous History of DARPA, which I've lectured through her History of DARPA book. She has another book called Area 51, where she goes into analyzing this and pointing out that much of this seems to be a cover for black operations, for studies, for deep state technology, and perhaps even a cover for other things like, drug running. If the government's involved in those kinds of activities, they would use alien cover or something like this for what's going on at perhaps these bases. So I tend to think that that's the story that's correct. And those are two resources that are really good on that. But on a broader scale, I think that there's absolutely the possibility that they would try to utilize a new religion or craft some kind of new religious movement that would be more amenable to technocracy to try to steer the global religions, the world religions, into something under perhaps an alien narrative. Oh, it turns out, if you've seen the movie Prometheus, right? It turns out, we were seeded here by the engineers and we were accidental creations. The older version of this is called panspermia. And this is the idea that I think even Isaac Newton and other people held this view that we were seeded here by alien visitors and they're coming back to, see how their chia pets are growing, right? Where the chia pets of the aliens. And so are we growing good or do we need to be pruned? And connected to this is a lot of the studies into psychedelics, believe it or not. So I've read a lot on that. I've read most of the research relating to the public books about the MKUltra doctors. I don't think most of us have access to the actual MKUltra documents, but there's quite a bit of information on those guys and a lot of those doctors that wrote their own books. And they were many of them were psychonauts and believed that in a lot of their acid and DMT trips, they were talking to aliens. So that's an angle to this as well, which is important to remember. And there's actually academic institutions like Stanford that have been engaged in studying ETs and this kind of phenomenon because they think that they might be contacting alien life. Of course, if you have a biblical view, then you know that what's being contacted is, of course, demons. And of
Yes.
course, Graham, everybody sort of probably Graham Hancock, but he has a book out called Visions or Visionary, excuse me, and he's openly a Gnostic, and in Graham Hancock's view, a lot of what shamans are doing when they contact the gods has a direct parallel to what we see when people who are doing DMT and LSD trips today. And so, in my view, the most obvious explanation and you know basis for all this is that it's demonic.
Yeah, I
I mean,
have
there's
to
the government angle, but it's the spiritually speaking, it's demonic.
I have to agree with you. A lot of work has been done in the realm of psychedelics, and what we see as contacting the demonic realm. I've had people explain the phenomenon to me, what they experience when they're on psychedelics, and for me, all my spidey senses are tingling, saying, "You need to stay away from this. Like, don't go anywhere near it, because it is some sort of contact with a realm. I think that we don't want to be near." The interesting thing, Jay, is that a lot of people that I'm talking to that are working in the quantum physics space and the nanotechnology space are saying that the nanotechnology has a similar effect where it's connecting people to the demonic realm. And I think, I watched this phenomenal video just last night about a Weezer song, which was, Die You Bastard or something along those lines. And the whole video is just graphene and, graphene spilling out of everything. And you said to me a very long time ago that the vision is sort of nanotechnology coated cities,
Yeah,
where that kind of really stuck with me, because it seems that's the key, the satanic takeover through technology. But the interesting link here with Project Bluebeam, and maybe we'll go through those steps. But one of the steps is basically telepathic thought control, which no doubt would be far more invasive, if you will, or powerful if there was actually nanotechnology inside the human brain that was able to alter thoughts as it is.
yeah. Well, that is what's in Ray Kurzweil's books. He does talk about that the nanotech will eventually be in the brain. That's also in Klaus's book, Fourth Industrial Revolution. In the last third of the book, is he says that the future vision is to be able to do that. And I think in both of those cases, they're projecting it into the future. How advanced that is, I don't know. So I can't say, if they actually have that or if it's just in the works. But that's definitely the kind of vision that they have. And if you watch that great documentary, MK Ultra, the internet, MK Ultra, and the Unabomber, have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's a must see. That was made in I think 2004 or five, so it's a long time ago. But it's a must see documentary because they interview a lot of the Pentagon type people and Esalen Institute connected people who were involved in the creation of the internet. So there's also relevance there in terms of mind control and how that ties into the internet and frequencies and bandwidth transmissions and all this kind of stuff. But they do intend to tie that into what's in the human mind. I don't know how advanced that is yet, how far they can go with that.
Well, without going through, the library of interviews that I've done, I can just reference perhaps the fact that they found that the nanotechnology, particularly in the vials of the injections, is responding more aggressively in when it's near a router, for example. So, it forms a lot quicker. It's far more advanced. And then when you remove the router, it seems to disappear. But it can reappear, disappear. And one of the suggestions was that this is actually happening through some sort of command in the quantum realm, getting the nanotech to respond. I mean, it's awfully complex and Twilight Zone stuff, but to me, very loosely, looking from a bird's eye view, it seems very possible, and in line with what the sort of globalist agenda is in terms of mind control. So I want to go through these steps with you. The 4 steps of Project Bluebeam. It's not necessarily going to happen exactly this way, particularly because it's a known conspiracy theory, and therefore they would be adjusting their game plan as they do all the time, Jay. But the first step here is the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge via earthquakes. So numerous earthquakes around the world that will apparently uncover some sort of archaeological artifacts that tell us that what we thought about religion was not true. Your thoughts?
I think that, yeah, if they did go with a panspermia narrative that would fit into the possibility of a new world religion based around aliens, that it would have to also explain origins, right? And again, that's, I covered that in my first book. I'm trying to remember there's tons of famous people that were, proponents of panspermia, like I think Watson and Crick, the discovery of DNA. He was a big proponent of the idea that we were seeded by aliens. And we've even seen some of the atheists warm up to that narrative, like Richard Dawkins in recent years has said,
well, yes, of course. If I was to believe in God, I would believe that we were seeded by some alien God.
Right. So it has to be fitting into his presuppositions of the Darwinian narrative. Anyway, so they would definitely want to revise or have some new explanation to history. And that's actually in Prometheus. Like if you watch the movie, I'm not trying to say it's true because of movies. I understand movies are fiction, but movies are oftentimes preparing us for narratives that they want to roll out. That's why it's important to look to fiction. And in Prometheus, the narrative is that there's these astronomical glyphs that have been placed all over the world in ancient pagan tribes. And the scholars in the year 2400 or whatever finally decode that it's, I don't know, Sirius or who knows what constellation. I don't remember what it was, but they're the ones that put us there. So they need to give a story of the past to tell us where we're going to be going in the future, and that's the main point of revisionist historical narratives, is that, but prior to that, people had a biblical view of history. And so if you've deconstructed the biblical approach to history, then naturally you'd want to replace it with something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't roll out. So they may already be trying to roll that out with what they've been pushing with panspermia. And so to have, new discoveries, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a very specific prediction, and that's why I say, the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge via earthquakes. I mean, they can create earthquakes these days. Questionably, Turkey was one of those. But because it's so specific and because so many people know about it and because we're talking about it, there could be so many different variations to how they roll this out. But it does seem, and I heard you say this on the Alex Jones show recently, that it does seem to be the preferred method because it lines up with their goal of this one world religion, unifying the world under one world religion. And it's quite interesting, Jay, and maybe before
and the technology, the implant.
Yes.
Right. All the alien stories have, they put a chip in me. Oh, well, that's just, happens to be what Klaus wants to do.
Yes.
Maybe Klaus is the alien.
Maybe. But what's interesting to me, Jay, and I'd like to get your take on this before we move on to the other steps, is there's simultaneously this confusion. So the level of psyops is that everything is confusing. And it takes a lot of time, research, and dedication to sort of see where things are at. And at the same time that they're trying to create unity on global issues like climate change or COVID or whatever it may be, the trans stuff, whatever it may be, creating this unity, at the same time they're creating division. It's really fascinating to witness how
that's the alchemical process. So you break down, you dissolve, coagulate back into the new form. So yeah, you have to break down all the existing structures to rebuild it into the new structure that you want.
Yeah. And so when people are witnessing this chaos and thinking, you know, how can we ever, I'm certain people have thought, how could we ever come together as a human race against this agenda when there's so many competing agendas, so many competing issues, you know, and within every agenda, say climate change, there's a million other different problems within that. You know, it's so complex and people just feel like it's this giant.
It's not, though, in the sense that, I mean, it has all these components because it's an attempt to change every area of life. But really, it's a simple plan. They want a world government, a world currency, a world religion that promotes the world government, total control, total surveillance, and eventually depopulation in some form or fashion. So that's the plan. Very simple, straightforward. It's been the plan for a long time. In many official documents that we've lectured through. And so the alien mythos or narrative is just one of those highly potentially useful cards they could play, that they could go with.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the second step of Project Bluebeam is a mammoth-style light show and holograms simulating the second coming of Christ. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so you know, I kind of think that there's two possibilities there. That could definitely be done. If they did do something like that, the new Jesus would be a Jesus who promotes something ecumenical, something syncretist. Oh, all the world religions, and I spoke through the Buddha, I spoke through Muhammad. That would be very synonymous with the religious proclivities of the United Nations and UNESCO. If you look at the spiritual founders of UNESCO, it's Blavatsky, Bailey, and Besant, you know, three witches who were openly advocates of what they call theosophy. And Alice Bailey has a 10-point plan for the destruction of Christianity and the creation of a new world religion that utilizes theosophy. That's the predecessor to the New Age. I did a video on that if you want to find that. It's a few months ago. It's Alice Bailey's 10-point plan for the destruction of Christianity and the implementation. It's a real thing. It's in her volumes. We went to the actual documents and showed her plan, and she's the spiritual mother along with Madame Blavatsky of the United Nations. So that's the official spiritual approach of the UN, and things like alien avatars or a new kind of Jesus that's amenable to some kind of new age movement would be absolutely perfect. In fact, I have one of the books I haven't done yet. It's called The Christ Consciousness by, I just went blank on that guy's name, but he's like one of the key figures at the UN as well. And he posits in terms of their spirituality. And remember, their book publishing thing was originally called Lucifer Publishing. And then they changed it to Lucis Trust. And I'm trying to remember that guy's name. It's not Benjamin Krim. It's another guy. And he has a book called The Christ Consciousness, and it's promoted by the same group. And so they want a new Jesus. And so that kind of a Jesus would definitely fit into the narrative that you're talking about, where if they did run a simulation of a return of Christ, something like that, it would be this deception. It would be a Christ that teaches some new form of new Christianity, where it's all the world religions, like Pope Francis is promoting with his Abu Dhabi multi-faith house that they just built and inaugurated. It would be something like that. So I could definitely see that being used. Or the other option would be that rather than using hologram technology, they just have really advanced drones that would do the same purpose, or use both.
I just had a quick look while you were talking. Is it Norman Paulson? Is that the gentleman you're talking about?
No, let me see. I've got the...
Oh, you've got it there.
I just can barely, I can't see the actual title of the book.
It's okay. I just, I knew it was bothering you that you couldn't remember it, so I tried to have a look.
It always does. Go ahead.
This is the interesting thing. So hologram technology, I've been looking into this, and I want to talk more on it, you know, in upcoming broadcasts. But even if you look at, you know, just a quick Google search for is barium used in hologram technology, it lists things like barium, strontium, that were previously used in holographic systems funnily enough, you look up the stuff that's in chemtrails, very, very similar, very similar components in the chemtrails. So, I've just had a quick look on geoengineeringwatch.org. I've interviewed Dane Wigington before. There's a whole host of documents there available for people, but it talks about independent testing of chemtrails being found has shown a dangerous, extremely poisonous brew that includes barium, nano aluminium coated fiberglass, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores. I mean, gosh, it's disgusting.
Oh, by the way, I got the title wrong. Excuse me. I did find the book. It's
I knew you would.
Reflections on the Christ by David Spangler. That's it.
Okay. So yes, a lot of these, a lot of the stuff that's in chemtrails was previously used for holographic technology. Now, I think they've advanced since then, but it's very, very possible, and again, I don't know enough on this yet, but it's very possible that that is going to aid in how realistic the holograms are.
There's definitely some truth to that, because there's a great documentary that came out maybe 10 years ago by Italian documentary filmmakers, and it's called you won't be able to find it on YouTube. It's probably on BitChute or some other platform. Chemtrails, the war against us, or something like that. But you have to watch the one that's the Italian documentary, because they go through the Air Force document, which discusses I think it's the Air Force 2025 document. Anyway, that document talks about spraying the air for multiple purposes. So the atmospheric geoengineering, according to that Air Force document, first, it has to do with transmissions of communications. So cell phones work better when you have those kinds of things in the atmosphere. So that's one reason for it. Other reasons could be, experimentation. Obviously, people have theories about that. And then other reasons beyond that, blocking out the sun, there's a whole host of things that could be done with that. But I would not be surprised, because what the element that you're talking about ties into the usage of that for various, if you're doing some of the holograms, it's kind of the same thing that you would be doing with like ground-based cell tower type stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised, as well as satellite stuff too. So
yes, I think the satellites are involved, and this is something that that I'm discovering as I'm digging deeper on this subject. Again, these particular things that we mentioned before were previously used in hologram technology. As I said, we've come a long way, but no doubt they would still be aiding in the success of really elaborate holograms in some way. And so, yes, what you're saying is absolutely correct. We move on to step 3, which is telepathic thought control by the Antichrist. The next step will be the use of extra low frequency, very low frequency and low frequency waves to essentially brainwash people into believing God is speaking to them directly. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, voice to skull technology has been around for a long time. It's old school. It's actually, there's a movie called Real Genius, which has Val Kilmer in it, and I recommend watching it if you've never seen it, because it's a funny 80s movie, but it's about basically the Pentagon Star Wars defense project and DARPA recruiting all these nerdy kids to work on lasers and voice to skull technology and all that kind of stuff. And so it's humorous, but you'll notice that, that's going back to like 1984 or 5. It was one of Val Kilmer's first movies. So yeah, and the plot of the movie, they're doing directed energy weapon stuff. So directed energy weapons are old school. It goes back to like Tesla tech. Really, all the internet stuff is built on the Tesla, wireless technology. And the Navy, the Pentagon, these different entities have been working on and studying directed energy weapons and lasers going back to the 60s and 70s. So that definitely exists, and the potentiality of utilizing those on a continental basis is discussed by Brzezinski in Between Two Ages. He has a section at the beginning where he talks, in the first chapter, where he talks about the mutating man ultimately for the purpose of being controlled by a Skynet. And then there's a footnote where he talks about ELF and VLF waves being able to be used to either agitate an entire continent or calm them down, make them docile. So that's definitely real. To what degree? I think that a lot of what's in place is ultimately for that purpose. And I'm sure, as Klaus says, they want to tie in the nanotech and all that to this as well. That's in Michael Aquino's Mind War to Psy War document, where if you read all the way down the footnotes at the bottom of the document, he says that humans are antennae, and this is to control the humans, all this stuff. And he was the Satanist colonel in the military that wrote the Army's psychological warfare doctrine, Mind War to Psy War, and he talks about using these ELF DLF transmissions to do the very thing that Brzezinski talked about.
In a recent interview I conducted with Todd Callender and Lisa McGee, for anyone who hasn't seen that, I encourage you watch it. He talks about we go through the humans as antenna and humans as walking batteries and walking cyborgs and all of this sort of stuff. And he actually provides evidence of how this is in the shots, enabling this. And but not only in the shots, it's in food, it's in the air, it's in water, it's in everything. And again, with the things that we've found about nanotechnology, it suggests that potentially it can recreate or be a duplicate of even your brain neurons and then kind of overcome them, which is what they talk about, this hacking of the human brain that they're open about now, and really just mind control, manipulation. Organizations like Rand.org talk about this. Karen Kingston exposed this some time ago, where they say that they'll have the ability to cause humans to do things that they wouldn't normally do. There's an ethical problem here. Needs to be addressed. Hasn't been addressed. So it's definitely possible. And here's the thing, Jay. Back then they're talking about this telepathic thought control. Low frequency, very low frequency. How much more effective would that be if people's brains are filled with this nanotechnology? I mean, it's terrifying stuff.
Yeah, again, I mean, that is the goal. That is what they discuss. And I'll defer to you. I haven't interviewed experts on where nanotech is, so that I can't, in terms of how advanced it is. So I can't say for sure. And I'm aware of the doctors that have discussed that they believe that this is what's in the vaccines and all that. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think there was a study that came out of NIH, associating the COVID reactions to various distances to 5G and cell towers and all that. So they definitely studied that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't true. It's just not an area that I know for sure that's the case, but I would not be surprised because that is definitely the stated goal.
Yeah.
I just don't know how advanced it is.
Yeah. Well,
I think they don't want us to. One of the things I think is going on with the alien stuff too is that I think that some of these alien videos and UAPs that it's entirely possible that they're just highly advanced drones, and so they're going to say, "Oh, you see, this is alien craft." Well, that's just a really advanced form of drone that they have that we just don't understand that technology. Maybe they have some kind of anti-gravity, or I'm just speculating. That propels the drone. I don't know, but I'm not gonna jump to the conclusion that, well, then I guess all of the religion that's passed down in the history of Western civilization, the Bible's all false because I saw a drone that acts weird, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I'm supposed to jump to the conclusion that there's extraterrestrial life because I see this grainy video of a orb floating around or something like that, right? So okay, either that or it could be something demonic, and there's no reason for me, in other words, to jump to the conclusion that aliens are the case. And that's usually the narrative that they want to push, is that grainy video, therefore aliens, therefore Bible not true, right? I mean, it's really silly. But.
Yeah, it is silly, but here's the thing, and this is potentially part of the reason why it's always grainy videos, because when the deception of this, if this is the path they're going down, when the deception actually happens, it will be far more realistic, and so it'll seem more real. All those rubbish videos were for a purpose, filmed on a potato, because it's going to seem so much more realistic if it happens. And you're absolutely right, it doesn't at all make me question the validity of the Bible at all. All it does is prove to me that they will go to great lengths to deceive the world into thinking that the Bible specifically isn't true. The final step that is listed by Serge is a simulated alien invasion beginning in the year 2024 or maybe sooner. I can't say for sure that that's when it's going to happen or that it will definitely happen, but we just did see we're seeing this increase. The Pentagon, particularly after the spy balloons, and then the Pentagon comes out and says, who was it that came out of that briefing and said, lock your doors tonight? Oh goodness, I can't remember who it was now, Jay, but they came out of a briefing after these spy balloons and what are they, and said, lock your doors tonight.
Yeah, again, and that's was that
Senator John Kennedy. It was Senator John Kennedy concluded his observations on today's classified Senate UFO readings with lock your doors tonight.
Well, it's been 2 weeks now, I think, since NBC Nightly News said there may possibly perhaps be the alien mothership above you, right? Now, we're not talking about P-Funk's mothership. We're talking about an alien mothership, which is supposedly, watching over us and sending out probes. All of that, I think, is just ridiculous. But what's funny about that is that now it's being stated on NBC Nightly News that there may be an alien mothership. So to me, that signifies that we're going to continue that rollout of the alien narrative, the alien mythos. So I would not be surprised if they don't try to run with some sort of deception like that by 2024, like you said. 2025, it's entirely possible, whether it's holograms or drones or whatever. In my mind, it won't be real. And have you ever watched or read Childhood Zen by Arthur C. Clarke?
No.
Oh, you need to watch that bit or read it, because there's an alien arrival, and it's in the novel. It's actually demons. And Arthur C. Clarke was in the circles of Crowley. He's probably the most famous science fiction writer of the last 60 years, because he did 2001: Space Odyssey, 2010, 3001. So the whole narrative of his science fiction is transhumanism and Luciferianism openly. That's not my speculation. That's his view. And Arthur C. Clarke had in that story, which there's not a movie of that, but the Sci-Fi Channel did a really good, I think, 4 or 5-part series of Childhood Zen. So if you want to see what's really behind all this alien stuff, just watch Childhood Zen, because Karellen is a demon.
I'd really love to get your take on the deception involved in setting up the stage for this one world leader. We all know that that's the ultimate goal. What sort of tactics do you foresee in the coming years or year or whenever to really drive? Because right now there are a lot of people that see this for what it is, and they're very staunch, Jay, but the attack will come on those people as well, making them question their very own beliefs. We know that from scripture. So what do you think they will, what sort of lengths will they go to, or how will they successfully deceive more people?
I think that it's kind of like a total Operation Chaos, where they're using every area of life being disrupted and undermined and subverted. Government, economy, religion, everything is kind of being subjected to a form of divide and conquer, such that it's destabilizing everyone. So I think that there's an attempt to destabilize anything that would ground people. And for example, you had that CDC guy before COVID, it was like 2018 or whatever, 2016, where he was in that meeting saying that we want to bring in a completely new medical system, and we're going to explode the existing system from within. So that subversion and collapse from within is an approach that does exist. It's very real. And that's, I think, probably what's going on. And so I think they're going to continue with more and more destabilization, controlled chaos. It may get uncontrolled. It may go out of their hand. They may lose control of the big bubble economy that they've created. So I think in regard to this large scale deception with religion and aliens and all this, I think they'll continue to push and see how well it's being received. I don't think they're going to push anything, like if more and more people, spoke out against and realized that the alien stuff was a bunch of baloney, then they wouldn't roll with it, right? They're only going to roll with something that I think they think most people would fall for. So, and we do have in Second Thessalonians, the prediction that there is a strong delusion that will be sent to people that don't love the truth as their the delusion is the punishment, according to St. Paul. So the figure of Antichrist, whether we are in the end times or not, there's always going to be Antichrist. John says in Scripture that there are many Antichrist, and that spirit is always operating in the world until the end of the world. And then we have that sort of culmination at the end of the world, whenever that is, with the spirit of with Antichrist essentially doing a kind of mimicked version of the incarnation, where he comes as a foil to Christ to try to unite the world around, a new world religion and peace and all this kind of stuff. And the alien narrative could definitely fit into that. Whether that is the case, I don't know. But, again, we see with what Antichrist will promote something very synonymous with transhumanism, world religion, that all kind of coalesces very well into the type of story or narrative that Antichrist will preach, which will be a anti-version of Christianity based around man becoming his own god, this kind of the classic sort of Luciferian ideas,
and very anti creation, as in the true story
sure.
of creation, making you hate yourself, making you hate humanity, and we need to be a different kind of humanity, and all of this stuff is happening simultaneously.
Well, just what again, all of the stuff from Arthur C. Clarke is based on this, because 2001, 2000, if you watch 2010, man goes into the universe to seed the universe under they're called the sons of light, so they're Luciferian, and they seed the universe through transhumanism and become a new type of being because they evolve. And in the original story of 2001, Starchild, the new baby that's born, he nukes Earth because Earth needs to be depopulated. In the separate story Childhood's End, when the demons come as alien visitors, they take all the generation of children that have just been born, and they nuke Earth because Earth needs to be depopulated. Right. So again, it's all in Arthur C. Clarke's stuff right there, because he was a completely evil, wicked person hanging out with Aleister Crowley.
They're all wicked and evil, and I think the resolve of people that see and understand that is growing stronger. But I think you raised something important, which was that, if enough people realize that this isn't that the alien stuff is bogus, they'll move to a different plan. But the point is that they'll always move to a different plan, because their final goal will be achieved one way or another. It's written. But the very, very crucial thing is for people to guard themselves against the deceptions, which is why, one of my missions in life is to expose this stuff, Jay, so that people will be aware. Because I recall having conversations in my previous church, with leadership, and saying, do you think that we're witnessing the great falling away, like this watering down of the word and things like that, in particularly in Protestant movements and things like that? It's really bad hyper grace, and essentially do as thou wilt and God will forgive it. It's really serious stuff, and I think that this is in line with the plans of the New World Order. Maybe there's an infiltration of Christianity, just having these conversations.
Oh yeah, we just did multiple live streams on how Christianity is subverted through foundations and the government and big money. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the scary thing is, Jay, that the response I was given is that as long as you're going in the direction of most people, you're pretty safe. Which is literally the opposite of what the Bible says, right?
Foolish wisdom, foolish advice there.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is because I think that being aware of the possibility, we shouldn't be immersed all the time in conspiracies. Our faith should be the driving force of our life, but we need to have some sort of awareness. How much how important do you think it is for the church to actually be warning of some of these things?
I think that there should be people within churches that have discernment and the gifts of discernment such to do that. I mean, Paul talks about having discernment of spirits as a gift. So certain people do have this wisdom and knowledge and discernment, and, people should listen to them. So, we have Orthodox saints, for example, or people that are about to be saints, like Father Seraphim Rose. He wrote a famous book called Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, where he predicted that there might be the usage of an alien mythos or narrative. He discusses them as demons as well. So this is a classic book from the Orthodox perspective. So, and I think he's probably going to be considered a more recent saint in the Orthodox Church in America. So, we have people talking about that. Unfortunately, it should be more people. It's not as many as it should be, but yeah, I don't think it takes a whole lot of knowledge per se to have this discernment, because a lot of this is just out there. I think the biggest thing is to not get fooled by disinformation or, like you said, lost, going down rabbit holes in terms of information that's not credible, or coming from goofy, weird people who obviously don't know what they're talking about. I would say, start with, the good documentaries, like I mentioned. Watch Mirage Men, watch Chemtrails: The Secret War, which is on BitChute, which I texted you that. I found it. It's the 2014 documentary from Italy. I mean, all this kind of stuff is pretty easy to spot once you kind of know what's going on and what's going down. So, but it's unfortunate, because it would be great if there were more people in churches talking about it. But I think a lot of people are just ignorant, and a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are, I don't know, they would rather follow sports ball and garbage like that. But sports ball is not going to be there if there's a giant economic collapse.
Yeah,
if we have if we have COVID 27, right, which rolls out, right, we're not going to have sports ball.
Yeah. You mentioned something as well from 2 Thessalonians that says that the great deception, a huge deception, will come over those that don't love the truth. We already saw this in full action over the past 3 years. People always say to me, and regardless of the fact that there's been some success in waking some people up, I shared a huge success story the other day. But for the most part, it's more of this just glazed over blank look that these people it can't penetrate their minds. That may already be one type of mind control that's happening. I won't discount that that's a possibility, already through the technology, but really it is this, it just seems like a veil, Jay, where they can't see or love the truth.
It is, yeah. And that's the thing, is that the irony is in that text is that the punishment is that you're given over to the delusion because you didn't love the truth. So it's God basically giving you what you want. You want lies? Okay, here, go believe all these lies. Sure.
Yeah.
But that's the price that we pay for not listening to people who were telling the truth and had discernment. So, the thing that I keep seeing is that so many people just have no discernment. It's very bizarre, that because a lot of this stuff is pretty easy to, like I said, when you know how the system works, the world works, like all this stuff is really cheesy, corny, dumb. The psyops that they run are so obvious, they're so fake. But if you don't love the truth, then you're going to fall for that. You're going to default to believing that whatever the system says is true because the system says it. It's exactly what O'Brien says to Winston. He says, I want you to believe it because I say it, not because you think it's true, not because you think that's what I want to hear, but because you actually believe that I can tell you what's truth. Yeah. That's how the system operates. And so if people believe that, which is obviously garbage, it's obviously ridiculous, right? Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Bill Gates, they don't decide what's true. It's absurd. But if people want to default to that, you will pay the price. You'll pay the consequences for that. And we've seen that in the last 3 years. I mean, been telling people forever to stay away from all these stabbies and all this stuff. And, I was saying that in 2000 and 2000 about stabbies of 2005 or 6. And I mean, I've been made fun of ever since then. So, but people aren't making fun of me as much anymore because they've seen so many of the things that I talked about. I learned about the push for world government and all this stuff in 1998. So, people have seen me as a sort of a crazy conspiracy theorist person, but even back then I was just going by what I'd seen the UN talking about, the actual documents of these groups talking about. And then for basically over 20 years, that was 98, 25 years now of being a conspiracy theorist. I've seen a lot of things. I've read a lot of books. I've watched a lot of things, met a lot of people, met a lot of experts, a lot of really high powered people. And even though I might have had dumb ideas when I was 18, first learning about this stuff, and I've gotten some things wrong over the years, on the whole, I'm about 95% right. So I'm not just tooting my horn. I'm just pointing out that, I didn't just learn about this stuff last year. Not saying you did. I'm just saying it's something I've been looking at and studying for 25 years. And I studied at an academic level as well, espionage and geopolitics in grad school. So all this stuff is real. It's absolutely real. Now, there's a lot of junk that's not real, but, Yeah, you just have to love the truth, and you will be led down the right path. Or if you don't, you will, there's consequences for that. I mean, we were saying for a long time, it's going to come to a point where there will be consequences for mocking the conspiracy theorists. Right. My wife and I were both saying this for a long time because we had a lot of people in various churches who were really mad at us, adamantly against us because of stuff that we've been talking about for a long time. And then what do the last 3 years show? Not only were we right about our analysis, everything rolled out like we said, and all the stabbies were deadly, like we said. And many of those people have just doubled down.
Yeah.
No, you're still bad because you theorize and you talk about it. You're bad. You're the bad person. No, you're the bad person because you love delusion and lies and your own stupidity.
And your own stupidity.
I'm serious.
But
Like you
no, I
love you
agree with
loved
you.
wallowing in the ignorance.
Yes, yes. You love the world, and this is what I say, Jay. It's a love of the world. It's a love of the system. It's a love of the fake security
Yes.
that they've given you over all
Right.
these years. A love of the
Exactly.
fake dream that they've painted for you that has nothing to do with success. I heard a talk by John Lennox some time ago about on this topic about the way that the world has painted success for us is just a flat out lie. And the things I read some stats this morning published by Wall Street Journal about how the less and less Americans are, and of course the stats could be fudged, but I think it is indicative of the state of the world. Less and less Americans think that having children is important. In fact, only 30% of respondents thought it was, whereas the rise of people that thought having money was important was getting higher every single year. And it's, what are you going to do with your money when you're 80 years old and you have no one around you and you're lonely and you haven't, it's just and I'm
Plus,
certainly,
the money isn't real either. The money is
yeah,
fiat, fake money. So
correct. And I really think it is a life where your treasure is where your heart is. And not saying money doesn't matter. Of course, you have it. It's great if you can earn heaps of it. No worries. Be generous. Do whatever you want with it. My point is that it's the love of money, the love of the world
Right.
system, the love of it, the fake security that they've painted for you, which, by the way, is on the verge of collapsing everywhere around you. It really is a great opportunity to push us further to our faith. And this is the way that I see it, Jay. This is why I'm not depressed, and will never be depressed, because we have something that's so much more secure than what this world has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to the garden, right? Because what Satan offers is a false mimic copy version of what God offers, and God offers us resurrection and divine life. Satan offers you a fake resurrection, fake immortality, fake divinity through all of these deceptive means, like, oh, you're going to be downloaded into a computer, you're going to live forever. Oh, but none of that's true, obviously. So it's all lies and deception, and there's just basically layers to the lies and deception.
Yeah.
So there's like a government layer of deception, and there's a spiritual layer of deception. So I think one thing people could do, which they don't actually do very much, which is something I did a few years ago and got really heavily into, that really helped me out, was study study the history of, watch a lot of documentaries on con men, watch how people are deceived in different cons, and you'll notice the patterns that different con men, famous con operations have done. Oh, well, it just happens to be exactly the same methodology of the big people on the big level, right? And you'll notice like Klaus and Davos, they're not doing anything different than what small time con men do. It's just on a bigger scale. So when we understand deception and the principles and practices of deception, we're a lot more, I think, fitted to not be duped by these things.
I agree with you. And the key really is to love the truth. The key really is to hate deception, love the truth, love what's good, hate what's bad. It's really a simple thing. And, if you're offended by something that you think is good but actually isn't, inspect within yourself why you're offended first and foremost. All these people getting offended at things that violate their beliefs. You come at me about Christianity, I'm not going to get offended at all because I'm so secure in that truth. And so, for the people that immediately jump and get offended when their worldview is threatened. Maybe your worldview isn't so secure then, if you're so easily offended.
Right.
And
Good point.
yeah, and so I think I think that I've always said that the key is to be a lover of the truth. Jay, you definitely are that. Let people know where they can follow your work, and I mean it, guys. Check out his stuff, because his analysis on Hollywood is fantastic, but his stuff on philosophy and, you know, there's so much work out there that Jay does. It's very varied, and truly, I think, you know, beneficial for our day and age.
Thank you. Yeah, we just saw a 12 course history of Western philosophy course that's available on my website or over at Autonomy University with Richard Grove. We have a shop where you can get my books. Of course, there's obviously Esoteric Hollywood, but I have other books as well. My wife has books. This is, if you want all of my geopolitical theology and philosophy stuff, it's all in this big fat red book. What else do we have? I noticed I just put the TV show that I did a few years ago on YouTube, although it's not actually the whole TV show. You have to go over it. Never mind on that. But you can find my TV show that we did. It's called Hollywood Decoded. It's a really good show. I'm still proud of it. That was like 2017 or 18, full season of a show. But yeah, all of that stuff is at jaysanalysis.com. All that stuff is on my Rockfin channel, Jay Dyer. And if you look for me on Twitter or Instagram or anything else, you'll find it under my name, Jay Dyer.
Well, I've just brought up your website. I've given a lot of credit to your work, but also your wife's work. She's such an amazing, beautiful, like just classically beautiful woman. You know, I believe that. You know,
he wants to chat with you too, by the way. She wants to.
Oh, good. Yes, anytime. I think that we need more women who just are valued for their intelligence and true beauty, rather than, you know, the way that women are portrayed in society today. I really think she's a great example of that. So I'd love to chat with her. But Jay, really love your work. Thank you for your time. And for everyone watching, share this everywhere. Get this information out there. Protect others against the coming deception of this age. And if you're a lover of the truth, you will find the truth. That is the truth. Thank you so much, Jay. And we'll be talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you.